Good Sunday evening, everybody. So, the Tour of Idaho 2022 officially wrapped up today. The last team that was out on the route, Porsica and Neves, retired today. They had a really late last night. Those of you who were following them on their PLB saw that they basically had to abandon the route around 1 in the morning. They had a mighty long day yesterday. Tremendous guys, great bunch of riders. A few small nav errors early kind of hurt them a little bit, and then that sort of snowballed as time went along. Being a three-team route and a three-team route that had pre-ridden almost everything last year, they did a T2 last year with camping equipment. They faced some fairly significant pre-riding penalties, which is why they had to ride a lot of stuff that you haven't seen anybody else do this year. So that's what was up with those guys. Tremendous team, really wonderful guys. I'm glad I got to meet them, and I'm sure that I'll be seeing them down the road sometime. In fact, I'd like to have them on a PBR Monday. I know it's a little unusual to have teams that didn't make it, but I think their story is a particularly compelling story, and I think that I kind of have a show planned for a few weeks that I think those guys would fit right into. So I'll reach out to them, and we'll see if we can make that work. So anyway, we're done right now. I'm going to go out a little while and take down the flags and everything. And so the penultimate Tour of Idaho is done. We have one more year, and next year is going to be a humdinger. I've already ridden some of the stuff. The next few weeks, September and October, are an extremely busy time for me for several reasons. The first is that it's the time of year that I get to actually go out and ride. I can't, before tour season, what I do is primarily restricted to sort of sawing and sort of helping teams get ready to go. After tour season's over, I can just go out and ride. So I ride until the snow flies or until trails close, whichever comes first. And I've got a bunch of stuff I got to ride that I want to put on the tour next year. Hello, Jake. You and I will be talking soon, partner. Nice job, you guys, by the way. Nice job. But the other thing is that, as many of you know, I coach youth sports, and I've got a whole football team full of 6 and 7 year olds that are depending on me to get them through the next couple months. Love coaching youth sports. Have done it my whole life. It's a fun thing to do, and coaching kids is something I take pretty seriously. I take the whole football experience seriously. I don't take winning and losing very seriously. We just try to go out and have fun. But I try to give these kids as much attention as I can twice a year. We have a fall season and a spring season, and it's always been a lot of fun. So I got to do that, got to ride a bunch, and then wintertime rolls in, and that's when my wife and I will disappear into this studio here and just play music while it's cold outside. So that's my next few months for me. But we do have a PBR Monday coming tomorrow night, and we're going to have DFT, Dental Floss Tycoons, and they've all agreed to be on, and I'm really looking forward to this one because those guys just absolutely put the boots to this thing. It was awesome to watch. Can't wait to hear from them. Absolutely three of the best motorcycle riders that we have ever had do this. Those guys' skills were just off the rails, and it was fun to watch them. It was fun talking to them. They came up here one night and hung out with myself and my kids, and we just had a blast. They're super good dudes, and success could not have found three better vessels. So I'm happy to talk to those guys, and I think you all will enjoy hearing from them as well. Then after that, PBR Monday is going to be a little iffy for a while. I'll do a few sporadically throughout the next couple of months. Then we'll start in the Hot Stove League, and I'll probably do a few right up to the holidays. But I'll do a few before the end of the year because I want to lay out what's going to happen next year. So I'll talk to you about how you apply to do it next year. There have been about, maybe 8 teams so far I've already said yes to. People who I know real well, and I know these guys are solid. A lot of them are returning teams, so that's good. There are a lot of you out there that have reached out and said, what do I have to do? And I'm going to tell you exactly what you have to do. And most of you that have already reached out to me, there's not going to be a problem. It's going to be people that I don't know that can't find anybody to sort of recommend them, because next year we're just going to have a smooth season. I want teams that have a reasonable ability to get through this, both mentally and physically. have the skill set required to make it go, because I want to walk away from this thing with a good taste in my mouth, and I think I've earned that. So that's what I'm going to insist on next year. If we tell you you're good to go, I think there's a really good chance that A, you're either going to make it, or B, if you don't, you're going to have a hell of a good time, and that's all anybody can expect. I see Caleb's out there, and I think those guys are coming back next year is what I hear, which would be awesome. They had the greatest team name in the world, and if you guys do come back, you get the same team name next year, except you get to do Big Dick Trail way up north. So we'll be able to make that whole thing we talked about the last time happen. Thanks, Sean. Sean's another guy we that did it last year, helped me a ton this year, helped everybody because he went out and saw a lot of trail. But Sean is a guy that did a lot of favors to the tour community, going out, checking stuff out, helping me get a realism check on whether or not what I had done was good or not, and I'm going to rely on him the same way in the future. I've already put together the group that is helping me next year, and I don't like to tell anybody who's in that group just because I want to keep them out of trouble if there is any. I don't want anybody being mad at them. But I've got a group, I think right now it's about a dozen, and I like to keep it around that size. There are some people that I haven't reached out to yet, but that group never exceeds 12, 15 people just because it's there's a lot of chatter that goes back and forth. And if you make the group too big, which I did one year, I had about 25 people in it, you're the thing just goes off constantly. There's all this crosstalk and everything. So I try to keep the group small, and everybody that's in there is in there for a specific reason. It's not just because I like you. It's because there's something that I think you can do to help, that you have some specific talent, some specific outlook. And one of the things I really like is there are a lot of people in there that'll look me dead in the eye and say you're wrong, and here's why. And I like that aspect of it. Doesn't always mean they win, but I do like it when people really defend their ideas. And I'll give you an example. Sean Smith, I've talked about this before. You know, that guy defended carrying a chainsaw, and he did it in a way that sounded just like a scientific argument that you'd hear at a peer review conference. But this is the reason why. I went right down the list, enumerated, and I listened to him, and it took me about 30 seconds to say, you know what, that guy is right. I have, by the way, done a lot of work on this sort of saw mount I've been working on, and I don't want to send out too many pictures or anything till I ride with it, but I'm going to ride with it Tuesday. And the trails I'm going to ride are fairly gnarly. In terms of physics, it's not the greatest design on the planet, and it goes against some things I preach against. The mass is up high a little bit, and I don't like that. It's modern saws are kind of light, so I don't worry about having it right over the center of the wheels, and it's offset a little bit. But as I've explained to everybody, the easier you can make it to carry a chainsaw, the more people will carry them. And the thing I like about this mount that I've been working on is it'll work on just about any bike, and it does not require the removal of the headlight mask. So I want to take it out and ride it, and I'm going to give it the best workout I can. And then I'll probably send some prototypes out to some of these guys that help me out and say, why don't you ride with this and tell me what you think? Because everybody's, sensibility is a little bit different when it comes to things like that. And things that I like and don't like aren't necessarily going to be what the next rider over likes and doesn't like. But if this thing works, I think it'll take off pretty rapidly just because it takes 5 minutes to put it on your bike. You don't have to modify your bike in any way, shape, form, manner, or style. And with these new super light saws, and I think I'm going to get an even lighter saw than the 192 top handle that I already have. I've seen there's some out there that can shave almost a pound off even that. And I might even buy myself another saw for this. I think I am going to go with a slightly smaller bar. I think I've got a 14-inch bar on the steel that I have, and I think you could get away with a slightly shorter bar. I'm going to talk to Sean and some of these other guys, Shane Johnson, some of these other guys that ride with saws all the time, and get some recommendations from them. But I'm going to try to spend a lot of time putting together what I think is a good Tour of Idaho saw kit, so that next year, instead of just saying you need to carry a saw, I think we're going to require a saw, at least one per team. And we'll have a prescription of different ways you can mount it to your bike. And hopefully that this mount I'm working on may fit into that. We'll just have to see how that all works out. So PBR Monday tomorrow night, it's going to be a barn burner. I guarantee you, these DFT guys are the real deal. I must have met them before because they've all done King of the Motos, or so I've heard, and one of them actually placed fourth one year. So I worked King of the Motos for years. I would have seen these guys at a checkpoint, but I don't remember any of them. But that doesn't mean anything. But if you finish fourth at King of the Motos, you can ride a motorcycle pretty doggone good. And all these guys, I mean, they were just smiling. The messages that they sent me were some of the greatest messages I've ever gotten from a team. Porsche Neves did that too. So the last two teams, despite the fact that they were out in the middle of the night and, were having occasionally some nav issues and stuff, they were never unhappy. It was like, man, I'm out here. The stars are out. This is wild. It's great. If you have that spirit about you, then things like this are going to be fun no matter how it turns out. So we had one group that was successful, one wasn't, but maybe there's a couple of teams I'd really like to bend their arms up behind their back to come back next year. I think we need to get those European guys back here. I got one of their motorcycles in my shop, so I may have some leverage over him. And then I hope these Porsche Neves guys come back. If they come back next year, the pre-riding penalty won't be as severe because they'll have been a year removed from riding roughly half the route, so that'll make life a little easier for them. All right, I got to get back upstairs before my kids who are eating dinner find some way to burn down the house with corn on the cob and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So I will see you tomorrow night. PBR Monday, 7 in the p.m. Mountain Standard Time, the way it always is. Once again, let's give it up for all the teams that were out this year, whether they made it or not. It was with one exception, it was a really good year this year. We had a lot of good teams out there, and we didn't have quite the number of finishers that I thought we might have, but that we had some really compelling stories along the way. I think it's very interesting that we had two soloists finish this year, and both of them had great stories. So we'll have a good time on PBR Monday. That's all I got for you right now. Cheers and thanks.